Most diversity can be found in the boarding house.
At our school, I feel people are just really proud of where they come from.
Staff diversity, 0 out of 5, easy.
I would say mental health support was not there.
Their mental health on the floor, if not below.
For our school, I personally think that diversity is quite good. Singapore is a very international place to start with. So we have a lot of cultures and nationalities all over the place. We have like UN nights to try and allow people to represent their nationality. As for being bonded, it's like 3, honestly. Because this is an old school, like many years. You make your friend early on, you can stick with them for a very long time. Some people change, but most stick. So newcomers, it's kind of hard to make friends because the cliques are already there. But as for our grade, we kind of bonded a lot in grade activities, such as our last week we had many festivals or whatever together. So that was nice bonding. But once that finishes, you're done. You're back to your cliques, you know?
Yeah, I guess the cohort is so big. I actually just got to know her in grad trip. We were like, oh, you're in my grade. Because our school is so big and there's so many students that we don't usually get to see everyone.
And especially because of COVID, you only see like the top of their face. So like, I don't even know half the people in my grade anymore.
In terms of diversity, I would give it like a 5 out of 5 because we've really got like people from everywhere.
And we have a lot of Armenians and Russians around the region.
In terms of integration, and everyone like comes to our school constantly like really interested, always asking questions. Everyone wants to be involved in like other people's culture. So sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming and some people feel like, oh, like I have to know everything about my country. But at the end of the day, it's kind of just like people at our school, I feel people are just really proud of where they come from and they like to share that a lot. So I think the integration works pretty well.
It's from year to year as well, because like during COVID, it was the community was a bit fractured and everything. And obviously like you don't talk to everyone in the school, but there is a huge sense of community.
I think I would give it maybe a 3.5 out of 5. I think most years are very diverse actually. Our year in specific, there was way more Europeans than anyone else. We had 0 Latin American and we had 0 people from Africa. At the beginning of our first year, we all had to quarantine, but the Europeans only had to quarantine for 5 days versus the rest of us had to quarantine for 2 weeks. And our quarantines didn't end on the same day. So that kind of created a bit of a rift in terms of friend groups and stuff. And that's the only reason why I wouldn't give it a 5 out of 5. Like that 1.5 is completely because of that. Even though that kind of resolved itself after a while, I don't think the school actually addressed it very much or tried to like integrate us more or even thought about it when they were doing this quarantine thing. So for the average year, I think it would be a 5. But for us, I would say a 3.5.
So in my school, like it's very diverse. People are generally very engaged in each other's cultures. I don't know like about others. We have a lot of people that transferred to our school because of COVID and because they couldn't go to the school that they were originally supposed to go to. And so that kind of increased, for example, the US American population, the Latin American population a lot in our school because it's from the area that we are at. But like we have a lot of events that showcase those cultures, you know? So I would rate it a 5 out of 5.
The most diversity can be found in the boarding house. So there's a bit of a divide between the boarding house and then the day students. The school actually has been having some problems with diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the staff at East is majority white or European, and then all the secondary staff, like the office managers, are all people of color. So you can see for representation why that doesn't look very good. You're saying that all leadership positions can only go to white people. Like, so the school got a lot of negative feedback on that. So there's been an effort to say, but it's still a really big issue. So staff diversity is quite poor. Student diversity, as they said, is what you're going to find in Singapore. I'd say the majority, so a lot of Asians, some Europeans, but the boarding house is where you're going to, like the true UWC diversity you see at other schools. So I'd rate it about staff diversity 0 out of 5, easy. Boarding house diversity is 4 out of 5, 3 out of 5, and then school diversity is like 2, 3. In comparison to other schools, it's like nothing. And then about getting along, yeah, there's a big divide between boarding and day student. I was a day student, then I moved into the boarding house, and it's insane. Oh, you don't rarely interact anyway, and because it's such a big school, you really only meet most of the people at graduation. They're walking on stage, and you're seeing them for the first time, and you're like, I swear I've never seen that person before in my life. There's no way they're in my class. It's not the most tight-knit community, but there are a lot of activities where you do get to meet a lot of people, meet a lot of interesting people. There's a variety of people, I should say.
Yeah, I would say on average, I would say maybe 2.5 out of 5. Some people have like really amazing experiences with it. Some people, just what the school offers isn't enough for them. We've got a counselor, like a psychologist that lives on campus with us. We've also got another one that comes into our school on certain days.
It's for if you don't feel comfortable going to the counselor who lives on campus, then you go to the other one.
We also have a student group, they're called peer listeners. I was actually one of the peer listeners. We get trained by the counselor. Of course, we're not professionals, but if someone feel like comfortable talking to an adult or a teacher, that's what we're there for. We often do like a lot of awareness sessions and surveys, like one a week, yeah, but then they're consistently like very low. So I'd say mental health is an issue at our school, but the school does provide ways to deal with it.
We had 3 weeks of quarantine straight. I would say mental health support was not there at the time. Like it was there, it was like, oh, meet this counselor if you need, but then there wasn't like extra stuff.
I would say mental health like a 2 out of 5. We have good resources. We have 2 counselors and they're great. They're really nice. They just don't work for everybody. We also have kind of like the same student-led support, but I feel like overall the mental health wasn't that great because first of all, the situation on campus wasn't the most stable, especially with admin because of like quarantine and everything. My year personally wasn't very united. We were very cliquey and that was a very big problem for us. So like that affected mental health a lot. Also the fact that during, for example, survival week, I don't know if you guys have survival week. No, okay, so it's this week where like basically you have all of your deadlines all at the same time. You have to submit everything the same week, all at the same time, and you have finals and you have everything at the same time. And it's called survival week because you're trying to survive. They tried to change it to success week, but we all know it was not a success week. And that week was horrible. Their mental health on the floor, if not below. And there wasn't that much support. Teachers do their best, but at the end of the day, they're so busy that they don't really have time to support, you know? There's so much lack of communication that it's so hard to organize in order to make people feel more comfortable and happy in the environment. The most support I got were from Sweet, like the students and stuff and my friends.
Counseling, for me personally, 2 out of 5. We also raise awareness about mental health, but we don't really, they try their best, let's say that. So there's days like, are you okay day, where you have to say like, are you okay? And then people are like, no. We have a counseling center. So nice, peaceful, such a nice place to go to. But the actual counselors themselves, they didn't help me. I went once, I had a mental breakdown. I cried my ass off and did not help. For others, it has helped, but I know my friends, they go to external sources rather than their schools. We also had, instead of stress week, had hell week. So that was the mental breakdown for the whole grade. Yeah, everyone cried.
The boarding house is a much stronger support system, I'd say. They've just got new counselors in this year. A lot of students found support. And the issue I think that the school has is that all the counselors are usually booked out. Like it's really hard to get a slot with one of them. In the boarding house, I felt the support systems were very much stronger than as a day student, where you just had the counselors and that was kind of if you wanted to go. But in the boarding house, you have like mandatory check-ins every week with them. Like that's very normal to have one-on-one check-ins with your house parent every week. I think there's a bit of a problem with overstressing students. We have exam season crash and burn. It's very normal and recognized here.
I think in terms of like mental health support from the school, I would give it like a 2. Many people would give it lower just because we only have 1 counselor and the majority of people who go don't really like it or feel supported. There was a forum this year because people really complained that they don't get the support they need, and the school's response is kind of, we don't have the funding to hire more support. If we had to do that, we would have to not give 1 student a scholarship next year, and that is more important to us. It's really tricky because then you don't know how to talk about that. You can get an external psychologist that the school will pay for, but to do that, you need to get it pre-approved through the school psychologist, which some people are able to do, but others don't really want to do. That's kind of a really well-known issue, but it's most that I've ever felt supported by my friends in terms of mental health. There are events where everyone comes and shares their story. From the students, I would say 5 out of 5.
We're like the chaotic, wild party type of sibling.
UWC USA, the outdoorsy sibling.
I guess the artsy, kind of philosophical, but also political older sibling. There's so many traditions, it kind of feels like it's like an older sibling type of thing.
Mainly competitive, academically and physically.
I'd say an overachiever younger sibling to Dover. We're always like intensely overachieving everything for no reason. I mean, for good reasons, I'm sure.
I think that's a wrap.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Adult, very broke.
Yeah, Daddy Davis.
Right.
In order to even graduate, you need to go camping twice in your 2 years. UWC USA, there's a lot of focus on CAS. The thing that made up a lot of students' experience was cafes, which are like concert
shows, singing, dancing, poetry. So that's really, really cool. And I don't think it would be UWC Adriatic without that. Project week and CAS, we all have to pay a certain amount to do our project week.
We do get a lot of funding because we're a huge school. So there's a lot of parents. Societies or clubs are able to like fund themselves because we do this, well, not as much anymore, but there's this like bake sale kind of mindset where like quizzes in the classes, yeah, selling bracelets or whatever.
MUN is really popular.
The only events we got were maybe Matanza, which is basically this event that happens in the town nearby, which is called Las Vegas. And no, it's not Las Vegas, Nevada. It's Las Vegas, New Mexico. Oh, is my school rich? Oh,